Hi.
I want to ask you a question about the stigma of mental health. How do you perceive it, and how, from what you've seen, do the average person see mental health?
Mm. They don't want to deal with it. Like mental health, when some people hear that, they just shut down automatically. They're like, I'm not crazy. And I'm not about to open up to you and let you know about what I'm going through and what I've experienced. They just don't want to do it. Um, but that same person will call you, with their problem. Um, so yeah, in the Black community, it's um it's not all the time that we'll reach out to a therapist. Um, because we don't want to be labeled. We, haven't had like the luxury really. Certain Black people, in low economic areas. I'm just gonna say, if you didn't have insurance, um, you just didn't go to the doctor all the time, and it's the same as talking to a therapist. It's just not something that we're just accustomed to. So been dealing with things that's been kind of tough for you to really um, identify honestly and move forward with your life. So, that friend that you've been opening up to, they don't always have the answers. And then sometimes those answers will put you in a worse situation when you should have really listened to self. So, and then a lot of it has to do with, the way that this United States was built. We still carry a lot of what our ancestors experienced within us. Um, and because of that, it allowed mental illness to be greater in, I would say, minority areas than in other areas. So it's just something that we all just have to be honest about, and be willing to accept the truth of the matter from someone that's actually trained, and that would really understand what it is that you're trying to convey, um, instead of talking to someone that hasn't experienced what you're talking about, and like I stated, just put you in another pickle.
Given that we've had things like the Tuskegee experiment and other transgressions by medical professionals, most of those were physical. Do you think that that lends itself to distrust for allowing a medical professional to deal with the mental?
Yes, it does. Um, we're already not supposed to put foreign things into our bodies. You know, we're all natural, and we have so many resources out here, herbs, all of that stuff to heal you. But yeah, experiments on humans have, I mean, it's made so many of us sick. Um, it's taken away from families. It's confused a lot of people, and it's just not right. Um, to develop a disease and then try to rid it with something that you've created, that's just not right. I mean, do you really love the human life when you do stuff like that? Is it just for monetary gain? So yeah, even in some instances, I wouldn't even see a doctor um, because of medicine, not knowing what you're putting into your body, and knowing all the time that it is a chemical, you know, it's just not right the way that um, we've been tampered with and basically used as guinea pigs. Um,
From the from the patient side.
hmm Well, the fix is to learn about herbs. It's really to be honest about what it is that you're ingesting, your food that you're buying. Are you really eating the things to keep you healthy? Or are you still relying on, the foods that our ancestors were forced to eat, which were basically scraps? You know, the food that you choose to eat can help you, or it could go against you. There are certain foods that causes inflammation, and people don't understand why their body swells. You know, so the best thing for us to do really is to get in tune with nature. We got to come back to center. You got to understand who we are and what we're made of, and feed yourself. Once you understand your body, it is a temple, and you are what you eat, no matter how silly it may sound, but you are definitely what you eat.
What do you see many people or the people that you're familiar with using as a system of coping? And as you see it, does that work?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people would turn to drugs. Rather, it's alcohol. That's a drug. People don't want to state that it is, but alcohol is a drug. Um, some people go for harder stuff like cocaine, um, crack, uh, heroin, PCP, whatever, it is. But no, mm-mm. That stuff only brings you back to the issue. You hadn't solved the issue, and no matter how that substance may make you feel, you know, when you're dealing with that problem, actually you've created another problem because now you have to deal with how your body is accepting that substance,
And how you gonna pay for it?
Exactly. So what I've learned to do, whenever I have something that's really, really heavy, um, the first thing that I do really is just break it down. I'm talking about from where the problem started to how I know I can fix it. So it's that in between that you don't want to deal with, but you got to. So what you have to do is be strong and believe in yourself and just get focused, and you can solve your problems. Um, a bottle is not going to solve your problem, you know? Smoking is not going to solve your problem. Um, you really have to be honest with yourself. Get to the root of it. and move on with your life, because you say you want to get over something, but it's at a standstill. So you got to leave that substance alone, or whatever it is that you're using to help you cope. You got to leave that alone and understand self and believe in self. See, that middle part, it's a lot of fear in there too. There's fear of you not believing that you can overcome it. And sometimes people, they use that part too to hang out with people. I noticed, like, even in the past, I've done this. Like, if I had an issue, I would call up a friend. Oh, what you doing? Yeah, oh, whatever happened. Oh, girl, I'm finna stop and get a bottle of Chardonnay, So, yeah, we'll sit down at the table and drink our wine, but the problem is still there.
Okay. Now, are you drinking the wine in moderation, or are you drinking to excess?
See, that's the thing. In the beginning, it starts out in moderation, you know? Um, but then you like that drink, and you just want more of it because it's making you feel like, um, I don't know, better. It's just making you feel better, but it's really not. Now you have a habit, because that one bottle that you was buying a week, you know, that turns into, believe it or not, a bottle a day. And then you graduate and you're drinking 2 bottles a day, you know? And then it's to the point to where you get that phone call, girl, what you doing? Oh, me and Chardonnay hanging out. That's your girl. So yeah, I reached a 3 bottle almost a day limit. It was like 2.5. And that's when I understood, Angel, you really got a problem. You got to do something about this. And Chardonnay is not the answer.
Was it gradual or was it quick?
Yeah, it was gradual. It was like up and down. 'Cause every day is not a bad day, you know. The thing that really got me there to that 2.5 bottles a day was the separation between me and my kid's father. Just dealing with that, because we were together for a long time. Um, so it was, him not being there, moving on with life, got all the kids, got to work, all of this stuff. So, um, I didn't look at it the way that I should have, um, because I was reliant on him in a lot of areas. Um, and I kind of became, let me say, handicapped in certain areas because, he had been in my life for a very long time. So, um, I had to learn how to live life without him. Um, at first, I didn't see life without him, you know? Um, and so I struggled, you know? Um, and I'm gonna tell you, it took me, I want to say it took me a good 4 or 5 years before I really got myself together. So we split in 2013, you know? So it was like 18, 19 is when I really, really just realized that, you know, I had put that part of me behind. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't need it. I understood that I didn't need it. And I understood and understand, the reason for us separating, all of that stuff. At first, I didn't want to accept it, um, you know, for my reasons, whatever reasons that a person don't want to accept things, So yeah, acceptance is a big thing. And once you can accept something, you can move on with your life. And you won't blame people, and um you'll just honestly be a better version of yourself once you can accept things for what they are, and not try to force um anything to work, because if it's not natural, it's not going to work.
During that time where you were having those experiences where you were overindulging in some things, who primarily were your support?
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay is not going to lift you up and
Oh,
get you the next and
definitely.
take care of the kids.
Huh, that's what I thought.
Well, that's what you thought, but I'm saying
Yeah, so that was really.
somebody had to fill in the gaps somewhere for the things that when you were not able to do it because, 2.5 bottles is a lot.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And nobody really knew that. Um,
So you were able to
so back,
maintain with that
yeah,
level?
that's what I was telling you. So during that time, I was selling cars. I love automobiles. So, that's like a thing. Car salesmen, you know, um, after work, everybody would go to the bar. That was a thing, you sold as many vehicles or whatever that day. We all discussed our business, what you sell today, you know what I'm saying, what kind of commission, all of this stuff. And there was a lot of customers there too. It was just a meeting place. It was a, place to release. But no, that's not something that you just really share. Um, we just hung out. They knew I drank wine, but they didn't know like how much I was drinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that, do you know of people who have had similar issues, maybe not, hanging out with Chardonnay, but with Chard or something?
Mm-hmm.
Of the ones were they able to, as you see it, maintain uh, a level to where you could disguise it of sorts or
Mm-hmm.
uh, just not show it?
Mm. Well, I know of a few people that's very good still to this day at disguising their alcoholism. Um, but I know of others who um who really went through it with not just alcohol, but other drugs. Um, it caused them to lose their families. Um, some lost their life. Um, some, became homeless, you know. Um, and that's only because they're in denial about what they're doing. They don't want to stop. I knew what I was doing. Um,
Why did you continue?
I continued because I felt that that was helping me deal with everything. Just to numb myself just made me at the time feel like that was the best thing for me when it really wasn't, because alcohol changes you, your personality and stuff. And so with me, it made me sometimes really hateful, or you couldn't talk to me. Certain people could talk to me. Everybody couldn't talk to me all the time. Um, because you never knew what you was gonna get.
So you would go TikTok.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't really have a filter, so whatever I felt is what I was gonna say.
Do your
Um,
feelings generally betray you
mm.
over what your mind is telling
Yeah, so that's that shadow side that speaks for you, you know. That's that side that want to prove a point to everybody. That's that shadow. Some people want to call it that ego, but that's that bad version of yourself. Um,
you? Now I have a question for you.
mhm.
What is the point of proving a point if you can't point to it helping you?
Mhm. So that's the confusion too around it all. You're not thinking straight when you're under the influence, especially alcohol. Most people feel like King Kong when they're on alcohol. So whatever you feel, whatever you're thinking, that's it. And nothing else matters. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What is the point of becoming superior in all thoughts when you're in a crowded room?
Hmm.
Because who would you have to talk to?
Self. You have self to talk to. You have self to convince.
Is it that self doesn't believe it in the first place? That's why they're in
Mm-hmm.
the room to prove it?
Yep. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very honest.
Thank you.
Having a look at that version of Angel, what do you think the angel prior to doing that would have thought about that angel? And then what does this version think about the angel that was doing that?
Girl, you so stupid. You know, why you weak? You know you stronger than that. For real. These are pep talks that I still give myself. I've always known who I was. But
That's a subtraction statement there when you say but.
yeah,
You
it's
take away
like,
90% of what I just said and listen to this.
yeah. But it's like, when when you've been living a certain way, a certain lifestyle, um, and you know it's not good, but it looks good, it was feeling good, you know, kind of want to keep it up, and you really don't want to look at truth about the matter. Um, you just because you feel like you'll be giving up something and not replacing it with the right thing. I guess it's just that image. It was like an image that I wanted to keep up.
Was
But
the image for you or was the image for them?
um it was for me. But
It was reflected through them?
I was yeah, but I wasn't looking at myself right. I wasn't looking at the whole picture right.
What brought about the change? Two things.
Two things, my children and myself. I prayed for a very long life. I honestly did. I know my kids are all they're all I got, and we've been so close, like, I was a teenage mother. I had my first son my freshman year in college, you know. So, me and my kids, we have a different type of bond. And I always told them that I was gonna make sure that they were gonna be good. Like, I can't see myself leaving here and my kids be all messed up. So, um, no, I had to make a change for myself, for them. Um, I wanted them to be proud of me. Um, and I wanted them to be proud of themselves. Um, sometimes a parent can make their child's life really hard by the choices that they make. Um, my kids saw a lot, they experienced a lot, um, especially my older two kids. They really saw a lot. And I just, I didn't want the the bad things that they experienced to just be it, because that's not it. And I want them to understand that the things they did experience helped them to be the people that they are. So, yeah, it was for my four children and for myself.
Okay. If we were to cap this portion of the interview off for today, what would be the thing that you would want to say?
Um, so what I'd like to get across to everyone is alcohol and um whatever, um that don't define you. Whatever choice that you make to numb yourself when you're dealing with an issue, don't let that define you, because it's not you. um what you should do really is just take a step back, without whatever that substance is. Like, just don't even touch it. Put yourself in a different space away from whatever it is that you relied on, and think about your issue. Just really think about it. And while you're there, take notes, you know, and it's really, really simple and it's gonna work. But when you're taking your notes, you need to divide your page. You know, there's always separation. So you want to separate the good aspects, and you want to, from the bad aspects of whatever it is. So break it down. It don't take a rocket scientist to live a life. So don't make your situations that complicated. Be honest with yourself, because you're trying to help yourself, right? How can you help yourself living a lie or telling a lie? You know, you can't lie to another person. I mean, they may believe it for so long, but you can't hide the truth. That's the thing. Um, so just be honest about whatever it is. It don't matter if you're facing court. And because you're facing court, you may have to do jail time, you know? Break that situation down to see how it is that you can better help yourself in that situation. Sometimes it don't always take money. Um, and if it is money, if you can't pay a bill or something like that, you know, go backwards and think about what it is that you've spent your money on and see what you have right here. If it's something urgent, trust me, there is a way that you can take care of whatever that urgency is. All you have to do is think. Think about your resources. Um, and everybody has some type of access to the internet. Start Googling things, because you will be amazed at how you can just find free money. Um, if let's say it's your partner, your spouse, you're having a issue with um whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. Y'all just not getting along. You can't communicate. So, do you really want that person in your life? Or are you trying to just dismiss the whole situation? So, that's something that you really have to be honest about. So, if you want the person in your life, what do you have to do to keep that person a part of your life? Or what don't you need to do to make that person come to you? Like, if you've done all that you can do, there's nothing that you can do, you know? Because if a person don't want to be a part of your life, then they're not going to be a part of your life. So don't try to force anything, you know? And, maybe in time, if the situation was really supposed to be that, you know, that's something that you can't do anything about because the universe is in control. So, that person just may come back to you. But, it could be a house, just whatever. Just really break down whatever your problem is and be honest about it. Be honest about it. That's the only way that you can help yourself is just through true honesty.
Outstanding, Angel Mangum.
Thank you.
Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. It's Monday, which means we have another Mental Health Monday segment. Joins us in the studio again is Angel Mangum. Thank you so much, Angel, for always joining us for our Mental Health Monday segments. Today we're talking about emotions.
Yes.
Sometimes people let their emotions get the best of them. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and that's not good. We can't let our emotions handle our problems. We have to handle our own problems. When you let your emotions get involved, sometimes you can make the problem worse because you're not thinking, you're just going off of your feelings.
And when we think about, there's a process to everything. So there's a process to emotions as well. What's the best way to kind of keep the emotions to a minimum or a level to where it doesn't affect you?
Well, the best thing that I suggest is to just analyze the problem first. Just look at the situation. Sometimes we'll just blow up instead of just, coming to center and just say, okay, this is where I am. Evaluate it first, and that would be the best way for you to handle the situation. Just a brief evaluation.
Yeah.
That would help any blow up.
Yeah, and emotions, they can, like they always say, they can stem from a number of things. What's the best way to assess where the emotions may have kicked off? The bad emotions, let me put it that way, because there is such thing as good emotions as well.
Yeah.
But those bad emotions that will almost cost you your livelihood, things
That's
like
true.
that. What does that stem from?
Self, we could be having internal issues, and because you dropped a pen on the floor, I want to blow up at you because of that, but it's really something that I'm dealing with, within. So yeah, you have to think about self first when you're dealing with another person because that person has emotions also.
And I was just going to say, when dealing with someone that has bad emotions or just not the best emotions that day or at that moment, what's the best way to handle that? You're looking at
Take
someone.
a time out. We all have to regenerate. You can't just keep going and going and going because without rest, you're not going to be your best.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just take a time out, and it don't take but just a second to do that, and just think about yourself, the place that you're at, what you're dealing with, and the best solution for that issue.
And I was just saying that there's a such thing as good and bad emotions. How can you determine when you have gotten into your emotions too much?
When you're angry, when you're upset, because you shouldn't ever be that way. When you're dealing with another person, everybody has to have some type of leveling. You know, you can't just force a situation. You can't force a person to believe the things that you're telling them, or, you know, you can't force anything. So yeah, that would be the best way, to just evaluate.
Evaluate, that's the biggest thing. And sometimes it's hard for people to evaluate when they're in their emotions, because they're in their emotions. Obviously, you said they can evaluate, take a step back. What are some other things if, you know, we're looking at the emotion? Like I said, it could cost you your livelihood. What are some other things people can do if they find themselves in a position that their emotions are affecting them in a negative way?
I've heard people say, well, once I'm riled up, once I'm upset, you know, it takes a long time for me to calm down. But why is that? You know, is that something that you're used to? You know, we have to get out of certain patterns too. So it's nothing for you to wake self up, say, okay, now you know you've gone too far.
And what does that look like? I like that you said you can wake yourself up in the moment. What does that look like? Because a lot of people do say, once I'm there, I'm there. And it takes a lot to bring me back. But what happens when you get there and you don't come back?
Well,
You know, what does that look like when you wake yourself up?
So waking yourself up is like, okay, boom, okay, the situation is alive. Okay, so that's when the decision process starts. What are you gonna do about it? You know, blowing up is not the best thing, you know. Think about what it is. Think about yourself, you know, first. Because like you said, it could bring harm to you. Yeah. So think about yourself. Think about your surroundings, you know, who you're dealing with. And why are you dealing with this person now in a negative sense?
Right. And when you think about the two, emotions, I think about self-control. You've got to have self-control in order.
Got to practice self-control. It ain't no way around that part. You are responsible for yourself. Nobody else is. So once you step over that line and you say, okay, I'm King Kong today, well, you got to stand up as King Kong from this day forward, you know? So no, it's nothing about proving a point to somebody or trying to make yourself like the woman or the man. It's not that. It's just being fair with self, being fair with the next person, being fair to the situation because you want a solution.
And if we talked about this at one point as well, starting the day off right, that can channel good emotions for the day.
Always.
And not allowing people to control your emotions. What are some things that people can do at the top of their day I want to use the word ensure that they have a successful, a great day with positivity and great emotions? What are some things that they can do?
You got to show gratitude. There's nothing wrong with saying, I appreciate, you know, or thank you. It opens you up in another light. And once you do that, it's like another sense of clarity. It's like if you had something weighing on you, it's not that heavy now. You know.
That makes sense. Perfect. Well, thank you so much
I
for coming to
appreciate
talk
you
to us about
having me
emotions.
again. Thank
And hopefully
you.
people can take control of their emotions after today.
I hope so, yeah, because there's so much going on out here in the world. You know, people, please be careful. You know, you never know what's on another person's mind.
Yeah, and like you said, you're only in control of your actions and your emotions. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
All
you.
right, we'll be right back just after this break. Stay with us. We got more news.